Hi everyone, my name is Julia Clemente. I'm a junior at the University of Pittsburgh right now. I grew up in Warren basically my whole life, and I'm thrilled to be moderating this Q&A with our candidate Dan McCarey and our town council members Shaun and Vanessa Kian. Before we get started with some questions, I'm going to give Dan a few moments to just talk a little bit about himself. And before he does that, I want to remind you all that you can request mail-in ballots up to a week in advance before the election on June 10th. And of course, go out and vote. And if you haven't voted, you still have time to register. So yeah, take it away, Dan.
Thanks, Julia. Thanks everyone for joining us tonight. I appreciate you taking time out of your evening to be with us. Thank you to Vanessa and Shaun as well. I just want to tell you a little bit about myself. I'm probably the least famous McCarey in my family, so I gotta give you a little background about me. So I'm married to my wife, Jen. We lived here for 11 years here in Warren. We have two children, Bailey and Quinn. Bailey is 14, Quinn is 9. They both go to school here in town. They go to the Warren Middle School and to Mount Horeb. And we're very appreciative of the school system here in town. We wouldn't have thought to put them in any other schools. So we're very pleased with the school system and continue to be for the last 11 years that we've lived here. You know, about me, I'm the oldest of 6 kids. I went to Christian Brothers Academy in Lincroft in high school. I then graduated and I went to Villanova University. That's very in the news today for different reasons. We have the first American Pope, so I'm proud that I'm alum of Villanova today. That and the Knicks, but you know, because like, how can I not say about the Villanova Knicks who have done an amazing job the last couple of days? But then I went on to law school in California at Loyola, and then from there I went. I worked out there in California for about 5 years, and I came back home. And I worked in New York at a firm where I met my wife. And then about 13 years ago, I opened up my own firm. And 11 years ago, like I said, we moved to Warren. I have my own home office in town, and yeah, and basically, I had my wife has been involved in a lot of things in town civically, and I think this is my time to step up to the plate and serve Warren.
All right, thank you, Dan. And then reminder to all participants, you guys are all muted. So if you have any questions, put them in the chat box and we're going to try and answer as many questions as we can. All right, so now on to question number 1. Dan, what motivated you to run for a township committee?
I think I had a very similar experience to Shaun and Vanessa. I have to say, I did not pay too much attention to local town politics until the last couple of years when these two ran. And I saw what happened, and I know why Shaun and Vanessa ran, what was the impetus for them. And similarly, once I started watching how the town conducted themselves at the meetings and whatnot, I said, there's a better way to do this. There really is. We had, certain things that have happened over the course of the last years that if you do watch the meetings, you would see what would happen. But, residents being not respected all that much from the dais, and it just rubbed me the wrong way. And I just think that respect is big with me. We're here to serve the town. That's our job. If I get it in June, then I'm lucky enough to win in November. I'm serving you, nobody else. It's you. So I just felt, based on what I saw, it wasn't being done the way that I would do it, and that's why I'm asking to run right now and get your vote. So thank you.
All right, we got our first question in the chat. Our town is getting overdeveloped. What is your plan for affordable housing?
So affordable housing, right now in the phase we're in, the realistic answer is I have no say in it because I'm just like you. I'm not elected. So by the time this phase is locked, it's going to be locked before I would be elected. But obviously, do I have opinions on it? Of course, I have opinions on it. And I think that there's a short game that can be played with it, and then there's the long game. The long game is changing the legislature in Trenton. I mean, ideally, you get enough Republicans elected in Trenton and they change the law, which is the way you're supposed to do it, because right now it's a constitutionally enshrined right that is in our Constitution. So technically, the way to do it is you elect Republicans and they would change the law. But that's the long game, because while I'd like that to happen, I don't necessarily think that's coming anytime soon. Maybe we flip the governor's race. I hope that happens too. But the short game is not being played the right way, in my opinion. Okay, the short game is we have a mandate by the state that we have to fulfill. It was negotiated. It was negotiated. It's a negotiation. So that's another thing that I bring. I know how to negotiate. Shaun did yeoman's work getting the original number at 181. Okay, that was yeoman's work. But we all knew the chances of it ever being literally 181 at the end of the day was slim to none. It was the beginning of a negotiation, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you negotiated it, and you went to a meeting and you locked in a number that both sides were not happy with. But I'm telling you, as a lawyer, I do this every day. When both sides are not happy with the number, you know what you have? You have the sign of a good settlement. So they negotiated the number to 225, and our mayor, in her eminent wisdom, rejected that. Okay. And you know what happened then? What happened is the judge ruled, and he said, okay, you don't want to settle it. I'm going to look at the law and apply the law. And the judge applied the law. Okay. And that's where we're at. So I think that the appeal process is a folly, and I'm not for it. And that's my opinion of currently on affordable housing use.
All right, next question. Can you commit to supporting using Zoom at the township committee meetings? How else do you differ from Longtide, who has not supported Zoom meetings?
So unequivocally, yes, unequivocally. Zoom meetings are very important. They're important to the mom who's getting her kids off to practices, but wants to hear about a topic that's coming up that she can't necessarily do if she doesn't have access to give her input, or it's something important that she wants to voice her input on. We can watch it now. You can stream it. I acknowledge that, but you can't input and give your input remotely right now like you used to during COVID. You have people in the senior centers, and Shaun and I have gone there. I know Vanessa has gone there, and you know what they always say, at least to me, and I know I've talked to both of you about this, is they feel disenfranchised. They feel that they're not part of the community. It's the simplest thing in the world to send a Zoom link to those communities. They're looking for things to do. They're looking to be engaged. Send the link to them. Let them see what's going on. And if they have a question, let them ask the question. So I think Zoom is a very important thing for our time.
And to add to that, it's about hearing the voice of everybody. So we may not get a huge turnout at town hall. We may not get a huge turnout on Zoom. But for the access to be able to ask the question to the representatives is hugely important.
Exactly. So we tried the Zoom pilot, as many of you might know, and the reason why it had been voted down was because there was said lack of participation. I believe, and I think I'm speaking for Shaun as well, and it sounds like you, Dan, feel the same way, that it shouldn't matter how many participants there are. It should just be the fact that we have it available to each and every resident, because just as Dan said, we're here to serve you, nobody else but you, the residents of Warren.
All right, our next question is, what are your thoughts on the competitive bid process here in town?
So recently at a meeting, there was a bid that was approved for a computer company. During the meeting, Shaun explained why the bid went there. And in explaining it, he asked our town administrator to explain a little bit more why it went to the company it did. And one of the reasons our town administrator said it went to that company was because we had one bid. Okay, so, and and then Shaun flushed it out a little bit more, and our town administrator said that the reason we had one bid is he only had advertised it in the Courier News. Okay, great. I'm happy you advertised it in the Courier News. But when you get one bid because you advertised it in one newspaper, that's to be expected. That's foreseeable. There is no reason why we should not be advertising in the Asbury Park Press, the Bergen Record, online. Why? To solicit multiple bids. Because I'm certain there are multiple computer services who would have loved to have bid that project. And when you get one bid, guess what happens? You're over a barrel in a sense, because if you don't go with them and you don't pay their price, you don't have the service.
All right, we actually have two questions that just came in. So one of them is about recreation and one's about roads. What do you want to hit first?
Roads
You're
are important.
poison.
Okay. Oh, yes.
All right, my road is in terrible condition. How can you fix that?
Well, I'm gonna answer it this way. I know what little I presently know about the roads, and I'm acknowledging this. I'm a newbie, right? So there's an uptake that I have to learn. But what I do know is that part of Warren's roads are county owned and part of them are town. So part of them we do not actually control. So it's one thing if you have a pothole, and trust me, even though I'm running for election, I'll acknowledge the town has been good to me with potholes over the course of the years. I had a sinkhole in front of my house about 10 years ago. I called them and immediately it got fixed. So the roads that we control, we can do things when we need them. Now, but I also have represented asphalt companies in the course of my company and my career, okay, as a lawyer. And I know that certain times of the year you can't get asphalt because the mills are closed. You just can't get it. So it depends on a lot of factors. It depends on the seasons. It depends on which roads you're talking about. And beyond that, I would defer to them and I'd learn as I go. But that's my understanding about the road situation.
Well, we have a very robust road overlay program. Doug Burrow and his team at the DPW do a fantastic job evaluating and prioritizing which roads needs it. If anyone's come to your door promising a road repaving, it's not true. Doug has a good program, and when your road is up for repaving, it will be repaved.
All right, our question on recreation. I see that other towns like Watchung and Basking Ridge have a lot more recreation opportunities for kids and families. I moved to Warren for the schools, and I'd like to have more town-sponsored activities. What can you do to change that?
It's a great question. So I kind of alluded to it at the beginning, but my wife currently is the co-commissioner of the cheerleading for Pop Warner. And I can't tell you how much respect I have for them, but it is a huge commitment. Okay, it's a huge commitment, not just for the volunteer themselves, but for the family. And luckily my girls love it, and my wife does a great job. Girls do a great job. The whole Pop Warner community does a great job. But in order to have more recreational opportunities, you have to have people who are willing to volunteer. And that is not the easiest thing sometimes. And I've seen it firsthand. Trust me, I've heard the calls at the last second trying to get people to volunteer because they don't have people to volunteer. So what I would say to that is that's a number one. If you have the people that are willing to do it, then we'll consider it. We'll talk to the recreation department.
Mm-hmm.
Can we do this? Is it feasible? Do we have it in the budget? Is there a way to do it? So we're open to that. So if you have a specific recreation activity that you're specifically talking about, bring it to us and we'll see if there's a way to do it.
All right, next question. The current setup of the township committee meetings is such that there's no opportunity for dialogue. Are you in support of this, or if not, how would you change that?
I'm 100% in support of it. And, again, the last 2 years I've watched them more intently, the meetings, and obviously I've also seen other town meetings in other towns. And I don't think the way our town does it is the right way to do it now, presently. They put a shot clock at present company excluded. If you haven't been to a meeting right now, and it sounds ridiculous, but it's true. They have a 3-minute shot clock in essence that they put up the minute you start speaking in the microphone. And if the minute you run over, you're cut off, okay? And the other members of the committee, present company excluded, will not even acknowledge you. They stare blankly as you give responses. So I don't like that. If I were up there and someone is asking me a direct question, I am going to address the question as it comes because I feel that's the civil way to do it. And not only is it the civil way to do it, it's the civic responsible way to do it because I'm their elected official at that point and they're asking me a question at a town meeting. So if I'm going to answer it, I'm going to answer it there in public. I'm not going to just say, email me. Now, obviously, if I don't know the answer to a question, I'm going to say, I will follow up with you. And rest assured, I will follow up with you if I tell you I don't know the answer to the question.
Well, I have to say, I agree with you. Just to be clear, not being able to speak back to residents is very awkward when you're up there.
Yeah, it feels weird.
Yeah.
It does. I think we got there too because previously there was a tremendous amount of dialogue that would kind of digress in
Mhm.
sort of a way, and it would really kind of lead down a path that was not constructive. But I agree that the way that we currently are conducting our meetings is not resident friendly, is what I should say.
All right, next question. How do your experiences as a longtime businessman, how are they going to affect your role on the township committee?
That's a really good question. So listen, I've had to make payroll. Okay. I've had to take out loans. I've had to do a lot of things to keep my business afloat over the last 13 years. And I know what to do. I know what risks to take that make sense, that are prudent risks to take, that are calculated to take. I do not risk my money or my clients' money without consulting them and giving them the full picture of, if we do this, this is the worst case scenario. If we do that, this is the best case scenario. So again, you would be my client in essence. I serve you, no one else, not my party, not anyone else. I serve what's in the best interest of you. So what I want to do is I want to solicit your opinions and what you want. And I'm sure we'll go into this later, but I want to know what you want. It's not about what I want. It's about what you want, and I am your mouthpiece if I'm elected.
All right, next question. What are your visions for Warren?
Yeah,
That's a good
meaty
one.
one.
Yeah.
it's a meaty one. I mean, to some degree, and again, I'm going to always be candid and honest with you. While ideally in a perfect world, we would keep Warren as rural as possible, and we will try. But the days of the unpaved roads and whatnot, maybe there are still a few there. The town has evolved, let's say, in the last 10, 20 years. It's not the same town that I came up to the mountain when I was 5 years old to see my relatives. It's not that same town. There's still vestiges of that, and we want to preserve that. Listen, the Historic Sites Committee, I mean, man, what they do is so intrinsically valuable to this town that, they don't get lauded enough, but what they do as volunteers to preserve our history and our, in essence, our rural identity from the past is something that we really need to support on every level. And every dollar they get, it goes to preserving that vision of keeping Warren's history alive.
Yeah, sorry. I was just gonna say, so the fourth graders, they just took a trip to the historic sites of Warren, and when I picked my daughter up, my daughter's in fourth grade, the whole car ride home and to her after school activity, she was naming each site and listing facts about each site, and I think that that's wonderful and it's awesome, and I think it's great that you want to preserve these historic sites in Warren.
I was just gonna say, and they're all volunteers, right? Again, back to the
Yes.
volunteerism.
Yes.
The amount of work our volunteers do is monumental.
And I was at the Mount Bethel Meeting House when it was the open house a couple weeks ago, right? And I was talking to some of the volunteers there, and someone had said that up until the 90s, they had the reorganization meeting there, the annual reorganization meeting there. And they were saying, we don't know why we can't have it there again. And I said to him, well, is this meeting house safe? And he said, well, we had fourth graders here the other day.
Yeah.
So if it's safe to allow fourth graders to come in, then why wouldn't we do that homage to the past once a year and have the reorganization meeting there? It's honoring our history. It's like a no-brainer to me. And as long as it's safe, as long as our officials say it's safe to have the crowd there, then let's do it, right?
We may not have Zoom, but we'll be able to.
I think Zoom for that one.
Okay.
It's another little bit about history. So this person lived in Warren all their life, and the history of Warren is very important to them. How would you help to preserve it?
Okay. Well, again, I think it goes back to supporting our Historic Sites Committee. I mean, again, they're a group of volunteers who are giving of their precious time. And it's funny too, because if you look at who's on the Historic Sites Committee, they are volunteers for a lot of other things too.
Yeah.
So they're stretched thin, but they give their all to that stuff. And again, any extra way that we can support them, whether it be if I get on there, even if I don't, if you guys are still on there and I'm not, to have them be able to pitch to the town, hey, this is what we're doing. We would like your support. If you could donate, that would be great. let them know what's going on, the town residents know what's going on, what they're trying to preserve, and help them in their efforts to do that, which again, like anything else, costs money. It costs money, right? So
All right, next question. I'm a caretaker for my husband and I'm not able to come to planning board meetings. Do you think it's important that they are streamed so people can watch them from home, and how would you make that happen?
well, I'll be candid. I don't know if we have that authority. Maybe we do. Maybe you guys know the answer, whether or not we can dictate the planning board authority at Zoom. But if I had a vote on it, absolutely. There's no reason not to. It's to show what's going on to the town. It's to be candid and to disclose and to let residents see things and hear things about what's going on. So again, I don't know, you guys, maybe you know the answer if we have a say in that, but me as a layperson right now, of course, I'd be for that if it's possible.
The planning board has their own control of what they would do, but we would have to rewire the courthouse to make it possible.
Which we're doing
However,
anyway.
we're working through it and financing it, so my guess is if we wired the facility to be able to do it correctly, I'd be hard pressed to say that they wouldn't follow suit.
Yeah, they would be able to stream, just not have, commentary back and forth. So like if you had Zoom, it would just be streaming Zoom. You wouldn't be able to participate just because of the way that the planning board is set up and because they have hearings and matters of such.
All right, you previously mentioned that you'd like to form a neighborhood advisory committee. Can you elaborate on what and why you feel that that's important?
Yes, and that's a really good question. I'm glad someone asked it. So even before I was thinking about running, I had the opportunity to speak to some people, or in the course of this conversation where they were complaining in a good way, because they were just, saying what their concerns were, that the east side of town is ignored. And they brought up certain examples about, they thought that their concerns about the hotel fell on deaf ears. They didn't like the fact that Rolf's was left abandoned for 7 or 8 years and left in a state of dilapidation, which anybody who drives down there today, if you want to see it, there's mold growing off the side of it. And, I know Committeeman Kian has been on top of that recently about, issuing the citations to make sure that, stuff is not, falling apart and endangering anybody. But, listen, that side of town has its issues, but that's not the only side of town or section of town who has issues with how things are going on. And unless you go to a meeting and you use your 3 minutes at open mic, the town, and you could email people, I guess, and if they email you back, you can engage with them. But unless you go to that meeting, your voice isn't necessarily heard. I think if we had a subcommittee of volunteers, of people who want to volunteer from, the Woodland section, the Red Hill section, William Penn section, whatever it is, and we meet, even if it's every other month or whatever it is, they voice their concerns. I bring them to the rest of the committee and we say, hey, these are real concerns. What can we do to address?
Another question. There's a question about roads and the speed limit. Can you work on lowering the speed limit in the Red Hill area to 25?
Drivers who are a little more aggressive than older drivers. And, listen, I think that we have certain traffic issues in town. I acknowledge that. But again, I don't know what roads are county roads. I don't know what roads off the top of my head specifically they're talking about. So I don't know how much we control speed limits locally.
I will say we can't put speed bumps everywhere. However, the police are helpful in putting up deterrents, signs, the radar detectors, right? So if you do have a concern, just email Vanessa or I, and we'll pass it along to police so that we can, if it's a common occurrence on a common thoroughfare, there are deterrents that we can put in place.
You're talking like those digital ones that
read out how fast you're going?
Yeah.
All right, next question. I saw that Mayor Lontai received the PBA endorsement, and she says that she has the support of the police. It's one of her biggest campaign points. So how would you support our local police?
I think that if you do not support the local police, you shouldn't be running for office. I don't mean that to be like, a silly answer to the question, but, I think it should go without saying that anybody who is even remotely considering that is going to support the police. They have my full support. So to the extent there's any doubt about that, they have my full support. Okay. But, recently attended the HPVA dinner, and it was a great event. And you see things that you wouldn't necessarily see just by seeing one of our officers, stopped at an accident or whatever. You see them doing that because that's what their job is. You see it, but you don't really interact with them. I got to interact with a lot of them. Our police department are made up of amazing people. And what I plan on doing is meeting with them, and getting to know them more from the top down, the complete rank and file, and, getting them to know who I am and what I stand for. But again, if there's any doubt in your mind that I'm not for the police, completely untrue. I am 100% for our police, just like I think anybody who runs for office here in town is.
And just to double down on the support of the police, the department is so dedicated to the residents. I know there's been concerns with, motor vehicles, which luckily we haven't heard about because the HPVA gave them license plate readers, right? The police are focused on security. So what Dan alluded to was there, you see videos during this meeting that they really do go out and protect us, Warren, and they're dedicated. And on the flip side of that coin, you'll also see them buying Girl Scout cookies at the supermarket. So they're not just protecting us, but they are engaging in our community. And all three of us strongly want to protect and support the police.
All right, next question. Our town is growing, whether we like it or not. So how would you support our volunteer fire department and EMS as more residents continue to move in?
Again, not to say the same thing, but our emergency services people, even distinct from our police department, they are volunteers. They are doing amazing work on salaries that for what they do are it's almost as if they're volunteering at their time in a way, because they're not being paid the way I would be paid if I was doing my lawyer job. They're being paid in a way that recognizes part of what they do. So they're underpaid, but that's the reality of the situation. All that having been said, they do great work. I want to see what their suggestions are. This is for anybody, whether it's emergency services, cops, anything. If you have a suggestion, come to me with the data. Come to me with what your suggestion is, how you want to see something changed, okay? I am always going to be open to suggestions. I am not closed off to anything. I know that I don't know everything. So if you guys, if the emergency services were to come to me with a plan about something, I'm happy to have that conversation with them. I know you two are too. We're not closed off to anything. Now, I will never guarantee anything to anybody because people who make campaign promises, I'm not going to do that. I only have one vote if I get on the committee. It takes the will of at least 3 people to get anything through. We are distinct human beings with our own opinions on things. We may agree on some things, we may disagree on some things. So, but the 3 of us are open to hearing things and considering anything that comes up.
Absolutely. All right, next, I live at Brightview, and while I live here, I don't feel like I'm a part of the community. So is there a way that you can fix that?
Well, it's funny because you and I were just at Brightview, and we heard stuff that was very similar to that. So, and you know what, Vanessa actually brought this up at a meeting too, relatively recently. It's funny because it's the same thing we heard. The residents at Brightview, for that part, Miravi as well, they feel a little disconnected from the town. And one of the things they really want is they want a newsletter, a paper newsletter. I'm a paper person too. Like when I have to read a contract, I do not want to have like page after page. I print it. Maybe that's not going to print. Yeah. So they want a paper newsletter which lists the different activities in town so that they can pick and choose what they want to go to. So this was my suggestion, or it's going to be my suggestion, which would be, let's task our clerk with maybe the 15th of the month saying, hey, you have a deadline. Any organizations that want to submit something to us that you want to be listed on our newsletter, an event, whether it be a block party, a fundraiser, you name it, submit it by the 15th. We get it, and our clerk will collate it. She'll send it in a PDF to Miravi or to Brightview, and the administrator there can print it out and put it in the common area, and they can pick it up and they can say, hey, Farah, can you arrange a transportation for this? There's enough of us who want to go to it, or whatever it is. So it's very simple. It's very simple. And I think it would be, it's beneficial not just even to them, because you can put that PDF on the website. And you can have it at town hall. If people want to come to town hall and pick it up, you know, the library.
Exactly.
All right. I don't know either candidate. What makes you a different leader than Lisa, and why should I vote for you?
Well, listen, I have 25 years of experience being a lawyer. I have 14 years of experience being a business owner. You know, I feel as though I come from a different perspective. I know how to make critical decisions for my clients in their best interest. You are my client. Again, I will not make a decision that's not in your best interest. It doesn't matter what I think. It matters what you think. I'm not elected to do what I want. I'm elected to do what the will of the people is. So when I see certain things that happen, I think to myself, yeah, okay, is that in the best interest of the people? And recently I've said no, and that's part of the reason I'm running, because I think it could be done a different way. And I do come at it from a business perspective, because we are in essence running the business of the town.
Yep, that's right. I would say that business experience for myself has been one of the most important backgrounds and what has helped me make decisions for the town. And I'm sure with you being a business owner, that makes you a heck of a fiscally responsible man, doesn't it?
I have to.
Budget that money, doesn't it? Right?
Absolutely, 100%, 100%.
I think what's also very important is you're not a politician. Now, I will tell people I'm not a politician, and they will say, that may not be true anymore, but I'm not a politician. Vanessa wasn't a politician. There are zero strings attached. The idea to do this, it's tough on the family, it's tough on our time. We don't take it lightly, and I would never, and they would never do it for any other reason other than it's right. So no strings attached is a very important reason that he's a better leader than the opposition.
All right. How long have you been a Republican?
How old are you? Yeah, right. Yeah, unofficially since probably day one, but ever since I was able to register to vote, 18 is the answer, which by my calculation might be, I don't know, 3 times longer than my opponent. But you know, listen, my credentials being a Republican, I find it hard to believe that would be questioned. I've gone to the national convention as a delegate. I stood in line for at least 18 hours at Ronald Reagan's wake in Los Angeles. So anybody to suggest otherwise, okay, sure. Okay.
All right. Another question. How do you plan to attract more people to get involved with the volunteer committees? It seems like you need to know someone to be appointed to a committee. So what can you do to change that?
That's a good question too. So I think there is this perception that actually has become reality, that unless you're connected to someone on the committee or who's in political power in some way, that if you submit an application to be a volunteer or to be on a subcommittee, that it's a Pyrrhic exercise, that you can submit it, they'll consider you, but it's a fait accompli that you're not going to get it unless you're connected. Yeah, I think there's some truth to that, for at least in my opinion, that's what I see. But I think that when we have a voting block of 3 on this issue, I think we are unified in the sense that if you are interested in being a volunteer, okay, and you want to serve this town, and you have the time, the motivation, and the qualifications to do it, we should welcome you with open arms.
Right, regardless if there were a supporter of yours or mine. If you're willing to volunteer your time, open arms.
All right. Another question. How will you engage younger people in civic life?
Okay, that's a great question too. Well, you know, I think that our town could benefit from that. I think the demographics are shifting a little bit. But when you're talking about younger people, I assume you mean, you know, high school and college age kids. Listen, I think Zoom would go away to doing that, especially, you know, if we promoted certain activities that were going on with our younger kids, be it lauding the baseball team if they win a championship or whatever it is. And we do it to some degree now, But I think that, having Zoom access so that the kids could actually hear what's going on too would be one thing. I think encouraging them to get involved at a younger age in the political process or learning, whether it be a subcommittee or whatever it is. Listen, when you turn 18, you're an adult, right? I mean, you can't drink yet, but you're an adult for the most part. So if an 18-year-old wants to join a subcommittee, let's just say that we're capped out, right? And let's just say the number is supposed to be 6. Why not have a non-voting member, right, that is on the committee if they want to and they're 18,
Right, yeah.
right? Why can't we do that?
I think it's also engagement and then speaking to that demographic. We don't do a great job touching that base, and it's hard to get volunteers of our age or older, and people are preoccupied, but I think with everything you've said, it is about listening, thinking about it, making a plan, and addressing what you can, right? And that's with anything.
Right.
But I think that's I think engaging that demographic, if they want to be engaged or not, is just hearing them out.
Maybe even going to the high school once in a while and
Yeah,
you know how they have like career days and whatnot.
Yeah.
Like, why can't we go to one of us, go to career day and talk about, civic volunteer being what we do,
Absolutely. I bet a bunch of people don't know what we do.
If we could have food, they'll all come.
Ice cream, right? Let's get some ice cream out there, yeah.
All right, this question's about small businesses. So how will you promote small business growth while limiting government regulation?
I think that there is too much regulation, and I know from personal experience, there's too much regulation on business. Okay, I mean, obviously some things are important. I mean, OSHA is important. Okay, but there's a lot of things that are not important. I think that you want to encourage commerce. Okay, you don't want a downtown that has vacant stores because our taxation on our businesses is deemed to be too high. Because when taxation is too high, it gets passed on to the business owners from the landlords, because the landlords aren't going to pay it out of their pocket necessarily, nor should they. I mean, people like to vilify landlords, but landlords are people too that have an investment that they have to make money on too. So when you talk about deregulating, I don't know about how specifically in town what we can do to deregulate. I'm happy to learn about it and look into it. But in terms of taxation and jumping through hoops with things, I mean, that should be streamlined. We should be encouraging commerce and businesses to come into town.
And we can reach out to outside resources like the county and organizations to say why Warren is a good place to have your business. So it's not just about what we can reduce, but it's about not incentivizing, but making Warren attractive so that people want to come in.
And also to promote small businesses, right? Have possibly like, I'm thinking about the days of when I lived in New York City, but they would have, like a restaurant week, or in certain like boroughs of New York City, they would have a night out where it would promote the residents, the local residents, or even people that weren't residents, but to come out and go to specific businesses to keep the foot traffic flowing.
Yeah, and just one other quick thing. There really is no reason why the new Atlantic Health tenant there in the center of town, that it took so long for that. I mean, and the town was in the dark for the most part. There wasn't too much communication about what was going on there. And I'm not talking about recent, I'm talking about for all the years it's been vacant. And there has to be a reason why that took so long. And maybe it is regulation, I don't know.
All right, another question in the chat: with all the new development, will we be increasing police and fire department personnel?
Well, if we don't, then we're going to potentially have an issue on our hands, right? I mean, you saw what happened in LA last year with the fires. I mean, they were understaffed. They knew they were understaffed, and they weren't able to control the fires. I think of it this way: a lot of us have natural gas in town, right? So what if there was a natural gas explosion, right? And a lot of our emergency services people don't live in town and they're volunteers. How quickly could they get here to control something that is big, not just the smaller but dangerous things that they do handle? And they handle it great, including that car explosion yesterday. I mean, that was. I mean, again, people just expect the fire department to be on hand and handle that, but that's. It's an amazing job that they do. I don't even know what to say. There's no words. But so, yes, I mean, listen, if the town expands, okay, you have to have the commiserate additional police and fire department. Otherwise, you're playing with a dangerous game.
All right, another question. How will you make sure the town budget is clear and fiscally responsible?
Well, it's a great question. So, and we actually, I think we've talked about this slightly, but one of the things I was thinking is, why can't we have a line item that, and again, I know to some degree you can look up online, although it's tough with the current website, but why can't we have a line item in the website where you can go to it and see exactly to the penny what was spent, and then have a hyperlink to the contract? So if someone wants to say, why did that cost $125 or $125,000, that they could click on the hyperlink to the contract and look at it and see what services are being provided, right? I mean, there should be some document, a linear document that has X contract, X amount of money, X bill cost this, paid out, and have an ongoing ledger that as it's paid, there's a running list of it, and people could click on it and see what's going on. Why can't that happen? That would be transparency, wouldn't it? I don't know.
All right, next question. Are you aware of what's being built at the old Chubb location, and do you think it will benefit the town?
I think it would benefit the town better than the warehouse that my opponent was for. I think that, listen, no one wants that big a thing in their backyard, but that was there. That's been there. There was always something there. It was Chubb before what they were deciding about on between the Amazon warehouse and the Treasury. I definitely like the Treasury one better. I will give kudos to the committee for getting that locked in, because we're going to have federal officers there. So you're going to have security to, it's a lot better. There'll be less traffic and less wear and tear on the roads because you're not getting trucks like the Amazon warehouse would do. Talk about roads. Think about how the roads would have to be repaired all the time with those trucks that would have to go over those roads.
Yep.
I mean, that was a win-win. It's a smaller footprint, less occupancy, no really nighttime work, limited traffic. And they are gonna, based on their old facility, they're gonna maintain it very well. So it's a great tenant.
And they supply their own security.
Yeah.
So it's not any additional burden on our police officers.
All right, another question from the chat. Do you think the position of township mayor should be an elected position where the township residents vote for the mayor?
I 100% think that if that's the will of the people, then that's the way it should be. So to be honest with you, if that's something that wants to go to referendum, then yeah, but you know what that involves? That involves, the town attorney said this recently, it does involve a change of the form of government we're in.
Yeah.
So that is it's in the abstract, yes, but to get to that point, I think it would be a very difficult, costly, we'd have to rewrite a lot of things. No town form of government is perfect. It's an imperfect system, but I don't know.
And if you have a functioning township committee, it works what we have,
Right.
It works.
In all honesty, the
Yeah.
mayor, the way that our government works in our local government in town, doesn't necessarily have any more say or power than any one of the other township committee people.
In theory.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
Okay, if you are elected, what is one positive change you hope to make in your first year?
That's a good one.
That's a good one too. I think one positive change is bringing back the quorum to town hall and respect.
Nice.
I don't want to relitigate the past, so I'm not going to, but listen, the videos are online. You can see what happened in previous years where residents were disrespected by certain members of the committee, and it's out there for your consumption if you choose to see it. And I just don't like it. I want to bring good governance. I want to be the leader for the people. I want to be their mouthpiece. So I'm going to change it in the sense that we collectively are, because I know you guys feel the same way. We want to bring that back where people feel comfortable voicing whatever they want to voice to us without the fear of reprisal, without the fear of being othered or comments under the microphone levied at you because it's a comment that they don't like. That kind of stuff has no business in town hall, and it'll end if I'm elected with the will of my two would-be colleagues.
Can I ask you a question? This is uncomfortable because we didn't prep for this.
Okay.
If you get elected,
Yeah.
there's two other township committee people on the bench with us.
Right.
How do you move forward with all this? you have any concerns?
No, not at all. Listen, I hold no grudges against anybody. If you vote against me, I want to win your vote next time. I'm not here to hold a grudge. Oh, you voted against me? Forget about that. You're not going to be on a committee. I'm going to dismiss everything you say if you come up to speak your mind on something. No, it's not me. It's not me. Forget about anything else. That's not my personality. That's not how I operate. So, Dan Croson and Lance Blick, I really, to be honest with you, I don't think I've ever spoken a word with Dan Croson. So he's a blank slate to me, okay, in terms of interacting with him. I have no qualms with Dan Croson on any personal level. I don't know him. Lance Blick, I met once, very nice to me. Okay, I'm gonna teach you. Lance was very nice to me. We met at the HPVA dinner, okay, a month ago. I have nothing bad to say about the two of them. I'm happy to work with them, and we will get a consensus, and we will govern for the people, the five of us.
All right, next question. How do you stay connected with residents in the community?
Okay, how do we stay connected? Well, I think there's a lot of ways you can do that. You can do it by going to events, right? You can go to charity events that are being held in town, block parties. You can keep connected with the residents by emailing them back when they solicited something from you and following up with them. Like I said, my kids are involved in sports, so I'm always at the field, so I interact with them there. So it's not that I haven't been around town for the last 11 years that I've been here. It's just that I've been in the background, and I've let my wife take the role, a front leading role of the family in the positions. Retail softball one year until my daughter, of course, the coach's kid was the one kicking the grass in the outfield. Saying, Dad, when is the game over? Can we go? And so that was short lived. But now's my time to step up, and I'm around. You can always find me, and I'll always get back to you if you have a question.
Yeah, I think it's important to immerse yourself in the community besides just the town committee role, which is something that you do already.
All right, last and final question, just to wrap it up here. How can your supporters help you get elected?
Oh,
That's the best question.
That's an important question for sure. So listen, I want you to talk to your friends. I want you to go out there and grab your friends on June 10th and bring them to the polls and tell them about me. Have them go to my website. Have them listen to my platform. Have them re-listen to this interview that'll be posted. Now listen, you can also request absentee ballots until, believe it or not, a week before the election. So if you're not going to be here, you can still apply for them, okay? And you can still apply for them for a couple weeks. So do that. I want you, if you can, to go out and talk me up, okay? If you believe in me, I want you to talk me up, because that's how I'm going to get people to go out and vote. And if you look at the last few elections, they have been decided on a razor thin margin. So even though you think your vote may not be the difference, it may.
Yep. Facebook posts don't win the vote. Don't win the election. Signs don't win the election. Voting is what wins the election.
And look, it's for Dan, right? And if you go out, give us 5 minutes. This is a lot of work, right? We're going to give you Dan's going to give you 3 years. Me and Vanessa you got 1 more year. Go out, grab a friend,
more than that.
tell a neighbor, right? And vote. We need your 5 minutes on June 10th.
For your voices to be heard once again. Vote.
Yes.
All right, so thank you, Dan, for making yourself accessible to our Warren community. And yeah, that's about it. All we have for tonight.
Woohoo!
Thank you.
Have a good night.
Thanks, everybody.
Good night. Bye.